Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this program. This program is sponsored by Co-Waters America, which means, where are you going, America? On my right is Joe Salonia. Welcome back to the program. Here we are.
Here we are once again.
Once again on our steady position of disclosing who or what America is.
We're blowing the whistle.
And blowing the whistle, the trumpet.
Of criminals. That's
trumpet.
what we're doing.
Yep. And I'm Arnie Engen, and we're going to talk some more about the guys who run the country.
Absolutely.
And the women, too. There are some...
Yeah, well, I just had an article here on one of the Rothschild ladies that's involved, too. So we must not forget the ladies that get married, and then they have name changes.
Right.
And so they get lost, but the bloodline don't.
Yeah.
So
one particular name comes to me, and it's Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
I mean, she runs a lot of stuff without us knowing about it.
Oh, that's for
sure.
sure.
A lot of influence on the inside.
Well, she wants to censor the internet, you know.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, we got to get rid of that witch, that's for sure.
Well, she's going to come back in '08, they say.
I don't think so. People are going to get wise to her, I think.
You think America will wake up to the point in the '08 that
well, as Walter Cronkite stated, that people are mentally incapable of...
well, yeah.
They should be kept away from the voting booths. That's what he said. The majority
if we're
of the
so dumb,
how
can we prevent anybody from doing anything?
Well, you know, for example, just for an example, the mentality of American people. You got like the O.J. Simpson case, right?
Yeah.
80% of the blacks thought he was innocent.
Yeah.
And 80% of the whites knew he was guilty.
Yeah.
So was there any logic there?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, that's all.
How could that be? In other words, one gang proclaimed that 2 and 2 was 4, and the other said denied that it was 2 and 2.
There you go.
4.
Yeah.
That's
that's the mentality we have in this country.
Yeah.
You know, it's not logic. It's emotion and and greed and everything else that goes with
it. That's
it.
exactly what it is. But you know, I got this book here, America's Secret Establishment, an introduction to the Order of the Skull and Bones. Now, this came into being here more or less, I guess, in the 1800s here. Who is the Skull and Bones?
We know who the Skull and Bones are.
But how do we explain this to the people?
Well, you know, you had that fine gentleman from Germany. What's his name? Krupp? No, not Krupp.
Adam Weishaupt.
Yeah.
Adam Weishaupt and Baron von Nigge. You know, I mean, Nigge was the guy who made the Illuminati popular. The satanic organization of the Skull and Bones is part of the Illuminati that runs this world. I know you're studying something there.
Yeah, I'm looking at this thing here. The two families which have been near the top of the Illuminati, the Reynolds family and the good name, Krupp family, the corrupt family.
That's the journey.
have been included in Appendix A and B. It is believed that at one time these families were within the 13th, but have been edged out in the ongoing power struggles within the Illuminati.
Yeah.
The Illuminati believe they are superior and have a right to rule over lesser men.
Yes.
Because, well, maybe they're right. The great body of people are mentally incapable of comprehending, right?
And the great body is getting bigger.
And the great... And I won't read much of this right now. Man, because we know the trend of this. A man will trend to view himself in his own eyes as a hero. One does not have to understand about the hidden Illuminati genealogies. You know what I'm trying to say. Genealogies. To have experienced the attitude of superiority of the aristocratic families that control the world. The pride of the aristocratic and the rich family is well known to the world. And we know who they are, and that's all there is to it. And we're sticking to it.
Yeah. Now here's the rich families in the United States who are top-level Illuminati guys, top-level guys. There's probably more than the ones that I have here too. But the Astor family, the Bundy, like George Bundy, there's a guy in the government, you know. The Collins, the DuPonts, we all heard of DuPont. Freeman, the Kennedy, the Chinese Lee family, Onassis, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. Those are the top of the line there, guys.
Well,
Russell.
you just mentioned the Chinese and the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
And the Rockefellers are making a big bank deal with China now.
The Rothschilds are making
Oh yeah, and what are the other bankers, the top banks?
American banks or?
No,
or
yeah, American Bank, yeah.
Citicorp, maybe?
Saab or something or other. Well, anyway, I'll find it. Go ahead.
And then you have, the Van Dyne, the Krupp family.
Krupp family again.
This is a German steel outfit.
Yeah,
you know?
right, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Krupp Thyssen. I
Krupp.
used to see the trucks in Meriden. They had a yellow
Yeah.
steel truck with the name Thyssen Krupp or
Yeah.
Krupp Thyssen on it.
Yeah.
Reynolds, and let's see here, 473. Let me look, 473 in this book here. 472, 473. There's a lot of them in here. The Illuminati, someone, David Astor, George W. Ball, chairman of the board of World Federalist, and chairman of the Committee of Bilderberg. This is a few years ago. Lehman Brothers, Kuhn Loeb and Company, which is a Rothschild-run banking outfit.
Liam what?
Lehman Brothers,
Okay.
Kuhn Loeb and Company.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah. And Sir Frederick Bennett. The father and relatives went into Freemasonry and the Satanic. And George McBundy, Skull and Bones, and the guys from the Ford Foundations, Gaylord Freeman, the Grand Master, Prior of the Zion. Yeah. And all the big-time corporations, Chicago Corporation, Atlantic Richfield, the Bankers Life and Casualty, the Aspen Institute, Peter Grace, very powerful man, Knights of Malta, CIA, head of Catholic organization, and many large corporations, blah, 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 and goes on. Armand Hammer, who is dead now, City National Bank, wrote about the Romanov treasures, United Nations, Jewish, but worked with the Catholic Church, the Center for Strategic Internal Studies, Planned Parenthood, and UNICEF.
You know, you mentioned Armand Hammer.
Yeah.
I have a picture of him, and in this picture is Prescott Bush, Al Gore Jr., Armand Hammer.
Yeah.
There he is, Prescott Bush. Al Gore is a baby.
You have the pictures there,
Yeah,
huh?
and Armand Hammer over here. And Armand Hammer is quoted, "I have Gore in my right hip pocket."
And Al Gore is married into the Rothschild-connected Schiff, Jacob Schiff family.
Yeah.
His daughter married
Yeah.
into it. These are
Yeah. How convenient, huh?
Oh,
Boy.
they all married into each other's family, these people.
Yeah,
And there's
they all intermarried,
here.
yeah.
There are so many names in here, I can't even read them all. There's dozens and dozens. Look at the pages and pages of them in here, you know?
Yep.
All these names here. It's unreal. Unreal. The Skull
yeah.
and Bones,
Yeah.
the Russell Trust.
Here's the first of the Rothschilds right here. He looks like Hitler, and Hitler is from that bloodline, the
Yeah.
Rothschild bloodline,
Yeah.
because his father, or Nathan Rothschild, I think it was, he had hanky-panky with the maid, and out pops Hitler.
Yeah.
And the Rothschilds, just think of it, the Rothschilds and Hitler have devastated this world, to the hilt. I mean, wars and all this corruption that they're into, and then the Federal Reserve System and the banking system. They created the Revolutionary War.
Well, it's an interesting thing, you know. They make Hitler out to be a real bastard here.
Yeah.
But he wasn't always that. He said, I don't want war. You know, there's a lot of intriguing things that I come up with.
Well,
But he was forced into it. You know, the Jewish banker says in World War I, you know, Germany was going to make peace. They didn't want war. But who came up to the British and said, you know, actually the British were losing World War I.
Yeah.
They were losing.
Yeah.
Then the Rothschild says, well, we're not going to lose. We're going to get America in on it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah,
And that's where the Lusitania came in.
yeah,
They sank it
yeah.
with Americans aboard, and presto, America was in World War I.
Right.
Ditto for, we're not, I am not going to send American soldiers to fight abroad. They created Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah, well, we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But this is the point of how this Freemasonry, satanic organization, the Illuminati guys operate, and the international bankers operate.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
For their
Because,
own
well,
benefit.
Franklin Roosevelt once stated, history doesn't happen
Yeah.
by accident.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of good stories about North Korean, the Korean spies that knew they were going to attack Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And the Americans were notified of it, and they did nothing about it because Korean spies worked as domestic help for the Japanese, even in military compounds. It's like our military compounds and secret bases are having these cheap labor come in there, so
Yeah.
who the heck knows who this cheap labor is
Yeah.
coming from south of the border.
Yeah.
And the Japanese did the same thing. They goofed up with that because the Korean spies got in and they knew everything the Japanese were going to do.
Yeah.
They had their prostitutes and everything. And they worked
Yeah.
right inside the military Japanese compounds.
Yeah.
And that's where they got all this information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want to mention something that we never mentioned on this program before. The Mormons.
Okay, that's new.
The Mormons are part of the Novus Ordo Seclorum Society. They are also into the same thing. It's a different branch of it.
Yeah,
You know, there's so many different branches, but it's like a big oak tree, Joe.
yeah,
Illuminati is the big trunk. And then you have all these different branches on it.
yeah. A network.
Yeah. And here we go, folks. We try to, cut off a branch,
Yep.
but a new branch grows out.
Yep. Well, it's
But-
like the Masons. They controlled all of politics in the
Right.
1800s.
Yeah.
Every politician in America was a Mason then. So talk about controlled by the Masons.
Instead of working on the branches of the tree, we ought to be
Yeah.
working on the roots.
Yep.
We kill all the branches altogether. But the Mormons are, the Mormon religion was from its inception meant to be the mystic Christian religion that the Mason had claimed existed in ancient times, complete with the bloodline of Jesus Christ. See? It goes the bloodline thing.
Yeah.
Many of the early Mormons had been Masons before joining up with Joseph Smith Jr. Among the prominent Mormons who had been Masons for years were the following, and he goes a list of over here, a long list. And here's the chart
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
Senate. See?
Yeah. I have a chart here too.
Yeah.
When I find it, I'll
And
mention
here's
it.
the president of Brigham Young University.
Yeah.
There's the Senate. Now you see how all the branches coming out here?
Yeah.
You can't even count them. That's so many of them are there. You can't see it so good, but you can see an outline of it, ladies and gentlemen. And we didn't write this. This is history. Check it out.
Yeah.
Go there. Go to Brigham Young University in Utah and you find it yourself there,
You want to hear a good one?
What?
20, 30 years ago, maybe more, I was on a Berlin Turnpike at an Army surplus store,
Yeah.
and there was a red-headed Irishman in there that ran it. I just mentioned that in case some of you remember that back then, up by near Newington here.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Joe, he says, I got an order for 250,000 ammunition belts
Oh, really?
from the Mormons.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah. And then he says, they're going to give you another big order later on. So
Yeah. Wow.
that's when they had real Army surplus stuff there.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that don't blame this on me because of what I say here. Here's where you can find out yourself. So if you want to blame somebody, well, go out there and blame the Mormons themselves because they are the ones who's saying this, not I. The daybook used by Joseph Smith is now in the possession of the Iowa Masonic Library. It reveals that the Masonic Lodge funds were considered but a part of the Mormon community resources. So you go check it out yourself. But people get mad at me for saying this. I'm only a messenger, so I get harassed
There you go.
and intimidated.
Yeah.
They try to intimidate me, but I cannot be intimidated. I couldn't care less. Truth will set you free.
And they
The
can't stand
biblical
the truth.
truth is what's
Yeah.
most important here.
Yeah.
And this is what the thing is. This is a fantastic book on the subject here, you know.
Yep.
And you and I, we went down to Yale.
Yep.
And you know that smell that comes out of that building, that stink? It stinks of hell.
Yeah, well, when Arnie and I went over to the High Street there, what was it, off of Chapel Street? Or?
Yeah.
And there's a big arc that goes over the street from one building to another. So most of you know where it is. And Arnie and I walked down the street, and we asked college kids that were walking right by the Skull and Bone building if they knew what a Skull and Bone building was, and some of them didn't know. But then I pointed to the building. I told Arnie, I could feel that thing radiating evil.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
Skull and
That's
Bone
what I
building.
was trying to say.
It was evil.
Yeah.
Evil.
Radiating evil.
And Arnie said, how do you know? I says, I can feel it in my bones.
Yeah.
That's the way that's how what ugly that building is.
Yeah.
And that's where the Skull and Bones is located, right on High Street.
Yeah.
But you know what? They know they're exposed now. That building. They know the general public knows where that building is. So what they're doing is they're letting all kinds of minorities into the Skull and Bones now to make it seem like it's just a college prank club.
They're trying to minimize it.
Yeah, to minimize it.
Yeah.
But there's also another building on the corner of Trumbull and Whitney Avenue, and that's another one that looks like the Skull and Bones. I videotaped that. Were you there with me the day I did that? I think you were.
I don't know. I went there once with you.
Yeah, I know people have been in there that delivered stuff in there, and they still don't know what it is. So that's another secret society building there.
Yeah.
It's right on the corner of Trumbull and Whitney Avenue in New Haven, Connecticut. In fact, I got stuck there when Bill Clinton was coming through, that son of a gun, because I got stuck there for over an hour, and then I had to back up. I get home, and they still blocking the road off. I picked it up on TV, and he was still there giving a speech. I gave him the finger when he went by. I hope the heck he's seen it, because that's what I think of him. You know, he's, because him and his drug trade in Arkansas and all the 150 murders there that are unsolved.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here's Prescott, Sheldon Prescott Bush there, Prescott Sheldon Bush. Yeah, here's an initiation from 1970s. That's Bush Senior there. And these are the guys who became...
Yep, I know people that were in the military with him, and I know Chester from Cheshire, and he told me, Chester was interviewed by many people who do documentaries, but it's never shown on television because that's how much power the Bushes have. That's why when George Bush has a documentation on his the time he got shot down, now he saw the document of Chet, so now he's making excuses of why he bailed out of the plane and left his men in the plane. Now Chet was in the same kind of a plane that Bush bailed out of, and Chet took that very personally, because if he was in Bush's plane, he would have been dead. Because he said that Bush said, well, my plane was on fire, and Chet's plane was ahead of Bush's plane, because he was a tail gunner on the plane ahead of Bush's, and he told Bush, you're full of you-know-what, because your plane was not on fire, you bailed out and you let your other three crewmen die. Because Bush could have made a water landing, but he didn't want to take the chance. But Bush seen the Chet documentation somewhere, and now he's making excuses why he jumped out of the plane. He says, well, he couldn't contact his gunners on the plane because they had supposedly a shield between them. And Chet said, and when Chet confronted him at a reunion, Bush was sitting on the couch, and Chet walked over to him and he says, why did you bail out of that plane? You killed those other three crewmen. And I don't know, I forget if it was 2 or 3. And Bush says, well, the plane was on fire. And Chet confronted him and says, you're full of S. And Bush had to get up and walk off because he couldn't make the argument with Chet. So I tried to get Chet to on a video, but Chet says, I'm sick and tired of being interviewed. He says, I've been interviewed by dozens of people from all over the United States, and it hasn't been on any program since.
Right.
And that's the power of the Bushes. They could shut you down, In fact, when Bill Clinton was trying to get, when Gary Aldrich was trying to get on 60 Minutes, 60 Minutes got a call, and they were told that if Gary Aldrich gets on the air, that they will never be invited to the White House ever again. And so they had to cancel Gary Aldrich's interview, and Bush does the same thing.
Yeah.
And they all do the same thing. They
Yeah.
put pressure on people like they do with whistleblowers. And we have dozens and dozens of whistleblowers in jails, in the prisons in the United States because of these pigs in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
They are the evil doers.
Yeah.
They are the evil doers, and so are the Muslims and the Islamics, because in their Quran it states that you have to kill anyone that's non-Muslim or Islamic, and that's a fact, Jack. And so those are the two evil empires we have in this world today: the Muslims, the Islamics, and the Bushes up in the top of the heap there in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
These are the evil empires, and we should get these two evil empires and dump them in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
They will have their due date in court when the justice of Yahweh itself takes over, and then the judges will be judged
I
by
hope
the
so.
supreme
Yeah.
judge.
Yeah.
But this is not a hope. This is a fact. It'll just come in it. But you see how they have bamboozled us here.
That's for
Senate
sure.
document number 43 of April 24, 1933 states in part, the ultimate ownership of all property is in the state. Individual so-called ownership is only by virtue of government. That is, law amounting to mere user, and use must be in accordance with law and subordinate to the necessities of state. I wanted to get into that part of there of the New World Order of eminent domain for a little bit here.
Be my guest.
Which is why I brought this thing up
Yeah.
here. You all know about the Kilo versus New London up there in New London in the great state of Connecticut here, where they come and they have decided that your property is no good. The eminent domain prevails over personal property because you don't own it in the first place.
Well, that's
and we
the
can come and
power.
take it.
That's the power of the developers over the power of our congressmen and senators, because they rely on the take, the hard money, the soft money. No matter how you figure it, it's all bribery. That's what it is.
Well, you know, you look into this thing here. This is Senate document number 43, April 24, 1933.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come from you and me. So why do you get mad at me for arguing about the subject when you can go and find this out at the Senate document of April 24, number 43? You go and look at it yourself. And still people come and they harass me.
Well, you know,
It's amazing.
you're a whistleblower. That's why the government sends whistleblowers to prison.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
They're organized crime.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the judge in that case there, he was for that, you know, for the developers, you know, take over and everything.
Yeah.
And he ended up being a victim himself, so it backfired on him later on because they took over his property or wanted to. I don't know if they did or not.
Well, I hope Supreme Court Judge Souter loses his property. I think it's in New Hampshire. He's got a nice piece of property.
Oh, it was him that backfired on?
He was one. Yeah, he was one that was the premier judge, or one of the premier judges in setting up the Kilo, you know, to take the property up in New London.
Yeah.
So he has his property up there. So they backfires in the sense that they're trying to get him to lose his property because it doesn't bring in any taxes. You see?
Yeah.
It could be used to bring in more taxes than the property tax if it was a business. So they tried to buy the place and make a hotel out of it. And you know, the hotel hasn't even been built. The case isn't even on the floorboards of the court systems, the corrupt court system. And the hotel is already booked.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And it's not even a shadow in the books yet.
Arnie, I've been in corporate lords, developers, offices in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Now, you might say, what are you doing there, Joel?
Yeah.
Well, I had an old Army buddy that sent his nephew through college, and he paid for it, and and his when his nephew was hanging around the streets of
Yeah.
New Haven, Connecticut,
Yeah.
and so he got into Yale and probably the Skull and Bones for all I know. And anyway, he became a tremendous multi-millionaire, developing 900 units at a clip in Washington area. And so he invited his uncle, who was the godfather for him,
Yeah.
and he was his the nephew's hero was Uncle Joe,
Yeah.
this friend of mine. And I mean, anything Uncle Joe wanted to know, he told him, you know. And so Uncle Joe and I go take a trip over there, and we visit his nephew up in his big corporate office. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, we're in the office, and we call it. The secretary calls in the nephew, and he says, "Oh, Uncle Joe, I'm so happy to see you." He says, "I got a $500 million deal going in the next office."
Yeah.
And he says, I'll get you later. And Joe jokingly says, "The hell with it. Let's go and have some spaghetti, you know."
Yeah.
And he says, "Let's the heck with it." But
Yeah.
anyway, so he went back in there, and so he let us hang around the office while he's in there, while congressmen and senators are calling the office.
Yes.
Usually when you get a private call, well, a corporal lawyer gets a private call,
Yeah.
they say, "Will you please leave the room? I have a
Yeah.
private call."
Yeah.
He says, "No, you guys stay here. I want you to listen to what's going on here."
Yeah.
He's giving us the ins and outs of what happens in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
he's calling up congressmen like they were the help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then have congressman call me, have the other one call me later on. Boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom. And then later on, one of the staff members comes in the office, and this is going on for about 3 days. We're listening to all
Yes.
this stuff.
Yes.
They have their own construction crew come in, and he tells them what to do, fix up Senator's so-and-so's apartment, renovate the whole apartment, build this one a swimming pool,
Yes.
you know, do
Yeah.
this and that. That's the payoff.
Yeah.
So, so this is what's going on while we're there, and we're listening. Then one of the staff members comes in, and he says, "We have to, this pig farmer down there that's holding us up."
Yeah.
So the staff member says, "Well, we'll drive him down into the ground. We'll bankrupt him."
Yeah. That's what
So
they
this
do.
is the mentality
Yes.
these corporate lords
That's
have.
exactly
I
what
mean,
they
you're
do, yeah.
cannon fodder.
Yeah.
The congressmen are cannon fodder. They're nothing but mealy mouth. They're lapdogs
Yeah.
to the corporation.
Yes.
Arnie just mentioned this is not a nation no more. It's a corporation.
Yeah.
We've got a problem. They are out of control. We have
Absolutely.
a circle syndrome going here. Like the
Yes.
police department that
Yeah.
was corrupt, and when a whistleblower comes in trying to correct the department, they try to kill him.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is
Yeah.
we're a helter-skelter
Yes.
corporation that's taken over America,
Yeah.
and they own it. Halliburton has no contract for the New Orleans. They just walk in and they take it because you have the mafia up in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
at the head.
Yeah.
Dick Cheney, and he's going to have to quit because I understand there's
He's in
big
trouble,
things going up
Tom
against
DeLay,
him.
too.
Tom DeLay, yeah. There's big things that are going to blow up with these criminals and this evil empire in Washington, D.C., which is better known as the District of Criminals.
You know, Tom should resign from his position without delay. Get it?
That's for, no, I can't get that. That's a hard one.
I had to do that one there.
Well,
Let me
that's-
read this here. This concerns New London here. Senate Resolution number 62 may be an important source of information for understanding the state's action in condemning the New London property. Today, condemnation may be the fulfillment of the intent of the Senate back in 1933. Think of it as the ultimate whole staff state of Connecticut owner. Look at that. State of Connecticut owning all the property.
Isn't that nice?
Well, I didn't say it. Merely upgrading a tiny section of the whole state of Connecticut owned property for better income production status. Many people in their ordinary lives do that on a regular basis for any income producing property that they may own. The Senate Resolution number 62 and the court case Keeler versus City of New London are not New London specific in Resolution number 62. The text says it all, though. Property is not what we own. The land grabbers own the property.
Developers want
Because
it. They want it all.
Well, it's not so much the developers. They are the front men of the New World Order, boys.
Absolutely.
They are the ones who executed it while they sit back and, watch the scenery go by, so to speak.
Sure.
And we've had it. So go ahead and watch your own property. They may come and take everything that we own there because that is part of the Communist Manifesto. No private property.
Absolutely.
One of the 10
well,
planks
yeah,
of
we're
the,
all going to become slaves, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
One of the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto here.
That's what the UN Army is all about. You see, the American National Guard won't shoot at its citizens, but foreign troops will.
Foreign troops certainly will, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have the foreign troops that are going to be stationed in Connecticut, in the North New England here, and they are number. Oh, you got the Venezuelan and Canadian troops. They're going to be here. Belgian troops, Canadian and Venezuelan troops for the North and Middle West.
That's an interesting thing. Venezuela.
Russia's going to take the whole southern part
Russia,
of America.
And they're here now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
There's virtually hundreds of Russian tanks in this country already. Weaponry,
Yeah.
helicopters, you name it. And where are we? We're sitting there. You know, we have placed ourselves on a doggone railroad tracks. We're sitting there. The train is coming.
Yep.
And we don't know. We don't see, hear, feel, or taste anything. Because we're mentally incapable
That's
of
for
doing
sure.
that.
Yep.
It's so fraught with frustration to talk to people who cannot grasp the significance of what you and I are saying here. It's unbelievable.
Yep. Well, let's see who we got here that's running the show here in
I'm
Washington.
looking for something
okay.
here that I thought I had.
All right.
here.
This is who we have running the show in Washington D.C. 29 have been accused of spousal abuse. 7 have been arrested for fraud. 19 have been accused of writing bad checks. 117 have directly or indirectly bankrupted at least 2 businesses. That's each one of the 117. 3 have done time for assault. 71 cannot get a credit card due to bad credit. 14 have been arrested on drug-related charges. 8 have been arrested for shoplifting. 21 are currently defendants in lawsuits. 84 have been arrested for drunk driving in the last year. Can you guess which organization this is? Give up. It's the 535 members of the United States Congress.
Yeah.
And that's a fact check.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is the fact. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And then you have perverts in there, and I have a whole list of them, but I don't want to read this one here because I want to get down. It goes on too long. I'm going to look for the other one. Go ahead, Arnie.
We're trying to start a grand jury investigation in the state of Connecticut here with Edward Whitney, who is part of Cold Waters America. And you look at this kind of list that I have here. These are the guys charged of treason, sedition, and conspiracy. These are, look at all this. CFR members, the whole gang here.
They're all out of the Council on Foreign Relations, folks.
Right here.
Organized crime.
This is just in the state of Connecticut here. These are big shot people. And these are, unbelievable. University of Connecticut, Yale University, representatives, congressmen, travelers, Connecticut College, Aetna, and General Electric, GTE, General Life Insurance, and all. These are the big shot guys. There's CFR, 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 and the names are in there. I mean, it's beyond. It's so beyond.
Oh,
Where are you, America? Where are you? You're supposed to be, defending the country, standing up, and you don't stand up for anything. It's like the Bible, My people perish for a lack of knowledge, says the Bible.
That's for sure. That's definite.
And in Hosea 4:6, you look at it in there, you find the problem in there too. Ye have rejected knowledge, so I will reject you. I mean, I'm not saying the whole thing right here. And we do the wrong thing all the time. What happening to us here? Where have we been and where are we going? Cold Waters America.
Greed has taken over. That's what
The
it is.
stupidity is just overwhelming, the whole thing here. And then, they come and point fingers at me because they can't dare to listen to the truth. You know what? They killed Jesus Christ, for example, is the same reason, exactly the same reason. They killed the apostles because they couldn't bear that they stood for truth.
Well, yeah.
Any dissident, I think I found it in here beforehand. Non-revisionist history, October 8, 2002. Night-ridden newspapers reported on the intelligence officials who charged that the administration squelches dissenting views. The administration, that is George Bush and company, in today's government so-called, squelches dissenting views, and that the intelligence analysts are under the intense pressure to produce reports supporting White House argument that Saddam posed an immediate threat to the United States. So a preemptive strike was necessary. What a fraud all this thing is. He didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. What we have mass destruction is in the White House.
There you go. They are. You know, if you had a spy inside the White House, he couldn't do any more damage than these mullahs up in Washington are doing to us right now. The village idiot, which is called the commander-in-chief. You know, next time he gives a speech or he's on a stage and he's waiting to get on, watch his eye movement and stuff. He's like you can see inside his brain is wobbling and it's going out of tilt at any second. Because
exactly,
psychiatrists watch that and that's an indication of la-la land and with this guy, because he has three of the best writers in politics. You know, and then he has his father he talks to probably every night. What do I do now, Dad? You know, and so forth or so on. So he's controlled, and that's all there is to it. He knows absolutely nothing about the military or anything. Like I mentioned before, he refused to serve his country. And he got on top of the list of over 100,000 people to get into that country club National Guard, which would never go overseas.
You know something interesting that to differentiate between a country with a constitution and a corporation. You know, Congress is the board of directors on a corporation.
Of the corporation,
And so is the Senate. These are the board of directors that run the corporation called the United States of America. And when you have a corporation, ladies and gentlemen, you have contracts. You make contracts. The constitutionary republic doesn't deal with contracts.
Not at all.
It deals with the jurisprudence of law.
Law, right.
Not contracts.
Yep.
And when contracts overrule declared rights, see, because the rights are under the jurisprudence of a constitution,
right.
But the contract is not.
Yeah, you can't do all these things with the Constitution. And we can't do it unless we have a republic, and we do not have a republic for which it stands. It's a corporation for which it stands, and that's where we are today.
In the banking system in England, the exchequer means a checkered cloth, such as the Scottish dress up in the checkered. That's not the exchequer. That's an old thing that they have over there, centuries old. The exchequer, and that is the Federal Reserve System equivalent to the United States. That's what it is. It's just 3,000 miles separated, but the bonds is exactly the same.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Oh, well, I mean, all the bloodlines are all connected with the Europeans. You know, even I have a thing here, an article on the Canadians who are battling some of them want to sue the Canadian government for this same money system we have here that was invented by the Rothschild, because give me control of a nation's money and I care now to make his laws, because he's already bought off all the politicians, and that's the problem, you know. And I don't want to miss this one here in case we run out of time, because I mentioned about 117 of these congressmen have been arrested for this and that. And now I'm going to tell you, now George Bush's administration is supposed to be the moral party. Well, I'm going to read off, I have all the Republican pedophiles in 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's about 25 Republicans on each page, and they are all pedophiles. And I will read them off to you. Republican anti-abortionist activist Howard Scott Hedrick is a convicted child rapist in Florida. Republican County Commissioner David Schwartz pleaded guilty to molesting 2 girls under the age of 11 and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Republican Judge Mark Pasavanich pleaded no contest to fondling a 10-year-old girl and was sentenced to 10 years probation. Republican anti-abortionist activist Nicholas Morrissey pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography on his computer and offering a bounty to anybody who murders an abortion doctor. Republican legislators, well, I mean, I could go on and on. These are all child molesters. Republican Mayor Phillip, legislator, campus, Tom Shortridge, Senator Strom Thurmond, you know, he died a little while ago. He's 100 years old. He was with a little 15-year-old black girl. A Republican pastor, Mike Mintz, admitting to a sexual affair with a female juvenile. Republican legislator Peter Dibbs, and it goes on and on, you know. And then you have our Connecticut boys over there in Waterbury,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and he's in here too.
Yeah.
And even old Schwarzenegger's in here too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I mean, Republican Andrew Burr, he had it with a little 13-year-old boy. And so, I mean, we got a lot of weirdos in Washington, folks.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the Republican Party. I mean, I don't think that the Democratic Party is any different, but that's what we have in Washington.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of mealy-mouthed, pablum-sucking idiots. And, you know, Thomas Jefferson once stated there should be a shooting war every 20 years because that's the only way you're going to get these bozos out, because they're using all of this psychology to brainwash you.
Yeah.
And most of you have fallen for it, and as the Rothschilds and Walter Cronkite has stated, the great body of people are mentally incapable of comprehending anything because they are steered clear of the truth, and that's all there is to it. And yeah, you know, if you think a while and use your common horse sense, you know, you could get over this ignorance that you're stuck with.
I want to mention something, Joe.
Yeah.
This is powerful stuff here. Now, people talk about this nation was founded on Christian principles.
Right.
Well, I digress with that a great deal because I do a little more research than most people on the subject to find out what's behind the explanation. I don't stop. People look at one side of the coin, and then they proceed to explain what's on the other side of it without looking at it.
Well,
I go for the other side right off the bat, and here's what I came up with a little bit. I'm just only going to do a little bit of it. George Washington's proclamation on March 30th, 1791, he declares that the District of Columbia be created and its borders established. See?
Okay.
George Washington did that. That's not a Christian declaration, creating the District of Columbia. It's the New World Order.
Yep.
That's what it is. And Congress, and he says further, and Congress by an amendatory act passed on the 3rd day of the present month of March 30th, 1791, had given further authority to the President of the United States. That supersedes Congress. Further authority to the President. Not that Congress has the ultimate authority ascribing laws, but that the President has. So you see, the Constitution was null and void already in favor of presidential powers.
Okay.
That's what you're looking at here. There's a whole lot more than what I'm saying here. A whole lot more. I mean, I got pages and pages and pages. And here's another thing that goes on to the same thing here that you need. I've probably lost it now. I don't even know where I had it here. Probably in this book someplace here. Let's see if I can find it. Can you occupy the chair a little bit there for me?
Okay.
And I'll be looking for it here.
Okay.
I probably can't find it anymore.
Well, here's a little word of wisdom from Judge Scalia.
Let's see.
And here we go. Justice Antonin Scalia, I can't even pronounce it. Well, anyway, that's it. He's
Scalia.
talking about the Constitution.
Yeah.
A living Constitution doesn't exist. I'm what you call an originalist, one who believes the Constitution should be interpreted exactly as it was adopted.
Yeah.
It should be interpreted as it was written, nothing more, nothing less. Rights do not grow smaller or larger. Some legal experts say you have to interpret the Constitution broadly, but that's not true. Under any circumstance, the Constitution is not a living document. It's a legal document, and legal documents do not change. But we must apply the words as they were originally written, and we must be bound by their original meaning. We must think of what the words are and what the words meant. When the people adopted them, the Constitution doesn't morph to be what we want it to be. And that's it. The Constitution is the law,
Yeah.
and it can't be changed.
No, but it can be rendered null and void when you establish a corporation. Because
Right.
then you no longer have a country to which the Constitution is applicable.
Under the Republic, it's a law.
In the Republic.
Unchangeable.
Yeah. See how
Yep.
they swindled us?
Yep.
What a job they've done, huh?
Done a terrific job in swindling American people
Yes.
out of their country.
I'm going to read something that's very interesting from Secret Society and the founding of America. Listen to this, Joe. I mean, really. In a sermon of October 1831, Episcopalian minister Bird Wilson said, "Among all of our presidents from Washington downward, not one was a professor of religion, at least not of more than Unitarianism. The Bible," here's what the founding fathers wrote about Bible-based Christianity. Thomas Jefferson, here's the other side of the coin.
Yep.
"I have examined all the known superstition of the world, and I do not find in our particular superstition of Christianity one redeeming feature. They are all alike founded on fables and mythology. Millions of innocent men, women, and children, since the introduction of Christianity, have been burnt, tortured, fined, and imprisoned. What has been the effect of this coercion? To make one half the world fools and the other half hypocrites, to support roguery and error all over the earth." Yep, that's what Thomas Jefferson said on one side of the coin. See, you know.
Yeah, divide the people. That's what it's all about.
Said Jefferson again, "Christianity has become the most perverted system ever shown to man. Rogueries, absurdities, and untruths were perpetrated upon the teaching of Jesus by a large band of dupes and importers led by Paul, the first great corrupter of teachings of Jesus." And Jefferson went on, and here's John Adams. "Where do we find a precept in the Bible for creeds, confession, doctrines, and oaths, and whole carloads of trumpery that we find religion encumbered in those days?" It goes on and on. Thomas Paine, you know, "I would not dare to dishonor my Creator God by attaching his name to that book, the Bible." Now, it's a fancy thing here. They come out and they make all kinds of biblical declaration that we're a Christian nation. But if they do that, why do they say that it has nothing to do with the Bible? See, there's a two-faced institution here.
Yeah.
A very two-faced institution. I'm not saying one is wrong or the other is right here. I'm saying that this is what they said on the other side of the coin. Look at here's James Madison. I mean, here's the author here, you know.
Yeah, I know. I was looking for that part, too.
What influence, in fact, have Christian ecclesiastical establishment had on civil society? In many instances, they have been upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instance have they been seen as the guardian of the liberties of the people. Rulers who wish to subvert the public liberty have found in the clergy convenient auxiliaries. A just government instituted to secure and perpetuate liberty does not need the clergy. I mean, the perpetration that we have here on the other side of the coin is enough, should be enough to make you really think who and what we are.
That's absolutely true. You got to think.
All from the very, very beginning. You know, here's the founding fathers were not Christians. By Stephen Morris, Free Inquiry, fall of 1995. The Christian right is trying to rewrite history of the United States as part of its campaign to force its religion on others. They try to depict the founding fathers as pious Christians who wanted the United States to be a Christian nation with laws that favored Christians and Christianity. This is patently untrue. The early presidents and patriots were generally deists or Unitarians, believing in some form of impersonal providence but rejecting the divinity of Jesus and the absurdities of the Old and New Testament. How can the New and Old Testament be absurdities? I don't get it.
Well,
Yeah,
they were all Christians to begin with.
well, professed to be for public consumption, perhaps, but in reality, Freemasons.
Well, they
George
are.
Washington-
Most of them were all Freemasons, right?
Well, yeah, if you look at the picture, I came across a picture. George Washington's cabinet are all Freemasons. 90% of them are.
Yeah, they're wearing those aprons,
Yeah.
aprons and all
If
that.
they were Christians, why would they wear that stuff?
That's for sure. All these TV evangelists
Yeah.
condemn the Masons because they know what they are. Well, let me tell you a little story. I had a guy in New Britain wanted me to join the Masons years ago,
Yeah,
and I says, well, no, I should have just to see what's going on, you know.
yeah,
And so I finally asked him one day, I said, you know, they carry the Bible around all the time, you know, like George Bush and Clinton and Jesse Jackson do.
Yeah.
You know, the phony balonies from abalone.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I asked him,
She's
I asked this guy, I says, you guys, the Masons, believe in God, you know?
Yeah.
And he says, oh, yeah, we believe in God. I says, what do you believe in? He says, you know, I keep asking questions. That's what you have to do, folks. And he says, well, we believe in a supreme being. Oh, he says, isn't that nice, a supreme being? That makes you look sound intelligent, you know,
Yes.
supreme being.
Yes.
You know, I says, what's a supreme being? And he says, that's God. I says, you believe in God, right? And he says, yeah. Now, I'm supposed to give up at that point, right?
Yes.
I'm supposed to give up.
Yeah.
So I finally gave him to him right between the eyes. I said, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And you know what he said? Hell no.
Yeah, there you go. See the thing,
So there you go,
yeah,
folks.
Yeah. See,
That's a Mason for you.
this is the thing about masonry here too. You know,
Yeah.
it's all satanic stuff. Or the horns are coming
Yeah.
out of these people's head with their satanic signs. You see more and more of it. You know, even on TV. George Bush's two daughters, they gave the Satan sign. You know.
I know. It's supposed to be the bull of the...
Well, it's a Satan sign, and
Yeah.
I mean, look at
Yeah.
in all the Freemasonry books, and you find it.
Well, remember that time we went into that building where that guy has the studio?
Yeah.
It was an
Okay.
empty building.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was
And
it used to be a Mason's hall.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing there looked like the Dracula's den, doesn't
That's
it?
right.
Didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
There was nothing about Christ whatsoever in there.
I mean, it was all these ugly signs of
Yeah.
designs of different things.
Yeah.
Well, I have the Mason belt at home. It has the thing and the cross thing, and that's an ugly thing too.
It certainly
I
is.
meant to
yeah.
bring it tonight, but
Yeah,
I
well,
goofed up.
I want to mention something else that's of extreme importance. Now, here's where my research are taking me on things.
Yeah.
Now, everybody, you know, have been led to believe that Amerigo Vespucci is where you get the name America from, right? Amerigo Vespucci. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me change that a little bit so you have what other here
Uh-oh.
goes that other side of the coin research that I specialize in. Note the word America comes from the Peruvian Mayan Aztec word Amaracu, which means the winged serpent.
Yeah, but I don't think in those days they knew anything about
Well,
Mayan history.
Well, but
Because-
this is the Mayan Aztec words. This is when you look into the historical part of the Aztec and the Mayan, you find these things there. It's all over the place in statues and archaeological finds and everything.
Yeah, but the Spanish didn't get there until many years
This
later.
has nothing to do with the Spanish. It has to do with the Aztecs.
Yeah, but how?
This is what they found when they came there, when the Spanish came there.
Yeah,
They
but
found it.
when Columbus discovered America, did they name it America Vespucci? I mean,
Yeah,
did
but
they name
this,
it?
this predates that.
I realize that,
Yeah,
but
and let me go on. We only got a few minutes here. the feathered serpent is the symbol of Lucifer, the devil, Satan. America then has been a secret meaning, the land of Lucifer. How they come up with this, I do not know. All people living in this hemisphere are Americans. Doesn't matter if you're North or South American, you're still American, you know. Canadians, we call them Canadians, but they're still Americans, you know, because they live in the continent of North America. Those people include the eagle, representing the sun, and the serpent, representing Satan. The founders of this nation did not revere the worship of God and the Bible, as I read earlier, but revered the worship the sun and the symbol of light, the Lucifer and the bringer of light. Lucifer means the Lord of light. Get it? And not only did they conceal the ancient secret religion in the Great Seal of the United States, they also concealed it in the name of this nation. William Josiah Sutton, in his book entitled The Illuminati 666, that's a book, added another very important piece of the puzzle to the story. He writes this: the ancient Mayans, meaning the Mayan Indian tribe of Yucatan in Mexico, a peninsula on the northeast side of Mexico, worshipped the serpent god under the name of Can. Here we found the origin of our American word canny. The Babylonian worshipped Can, the serpent, and Wool, the god of fire. And the Romans changed that into Vulcan, the god Vulcan.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, who was Christopher Columbus? You know who brought him over here? The Illuminati.
Probably they did.
The King of Spain.
They brought the Statue of Liberty.
What is the red cross that they have in his sails there? That's a sign of the Illuminati, as the red cross. Yeah.
Okay.
Believe it or not. See, I'm a very careful researcher.
Yeah.
So if you can find a way to prove me wrong, I'd love to have you do that. Write to Cold Waters, America, P.O. Box 2207, Meriden, Connecticut, 06450. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you have out there. I'm not, you know, oblivious to the fact that some of this thing may be wrong. I'm just stating it.
Well, that's why I want to bring a fact. When did Americus Vespucci come over? 1490.
Well, he came after Columbus.
Yes, right. Yeah.
He came after Columbus.
So I mean, he knew nothing about this Mayan cult there named.
He may not have done this, but this goes back centuries, you know, and centuries.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And if they call.
But wasn't it a German map maker who called it America?
Yeah.
He went after America Vespucci's name.
But this thing here ties into. I know the report you're saying, but I wanted to look on the other side of this coin too, and see what it is. And I came up with these things here. It's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely, in the Mayan language, you go into the Mayan language.
Well, they prophesized the year 2012 towards the end, and everybody else is. I mean, the Christian and the Bible is all triangulating to 212, the year 2012. So I don't know what's going to happen, but
we're getting toward the end of this rather interesting kind of a thing. This is very nice for discussional purposes to enlighten yourself into what is America really? Where do we stand on things in this country?
Yeah.
The main purpose, Joe, is that we have remained ignorant of the real truth. We have been bamboozled into oblivion. And with that, I'm going to call it a day.
Yeah.
And we thank you very much for watching our program here on Cold Waters America. And you take care, and you have a nice evening.
Well, the press is run by the establishment. That's why the public isn't getting the truth. You know, they have corrupt the young, get them away from religion, get them interested in sex, make them superficial, destroy their reluctance. And that's exactly what they have accomplished their mission, and that's where we are today. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. To sit in silence, but they should protest. Cowards of men. Abraham Lincoln. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Arnie Engen for Quo Vadis America. My left is Edward Whitney from Fairfield. Welcome back again.
Thank you, Arnie.
And on my right is our guest here, Albert Lebrun. And he comes from South Windsor, huh?
South Windsor.
All right. Well, we were here a couple of hours on our last program, and we stated your case, and we're going to continue with that case today, but we're going to advance it so that we have a good flow of it. And then I want you to know, public out there, our viewers and our listeners, we're going to set up at the end of 4 more hours of the type of program that we're doing now. Then we're going to have 2 hours of call-in programs in the future. The dates have not yet been determined. And we would like you to call in on these programs because we want to get your opinion on the legal system in the state of Connecticut. Maybe some of you out there have had an issue with the law in one form or another, and we'd like you to call us up and tell us about it if you can. So stay tuned for call-in programs on the programs that we are doing here now. And also, we're going to do July 21, we're going to have a program on World War II that you have never heard before. You're going to hear something about World War II. The veterans doesn't know and understand this, but I have a guest who's going to be on the program, and Joe Salonia is going to be here, of course. Both of these gentlemen are World War II veterans, and we're going to talk about something new that you never heard about before regarding the wars. And we're going to do many different interesting things here on this kind of thing. So you stay tuned for the programming up ahead, especially the ones on the call-in part. That is very important because we all fall prey to the judicial system. But now, before we get going on this real thing, I want to tell a joke, all right? There's this guy in Congress, you know, is he a senator? He's been in trouble lately, this guy. His name is Tom DeLay. I think you should resign without delay. You like that one? I got one more for you. Yeah, I just want to show you that we're not void of humor in all the serious stuff that we do on this program, you know? You see, there was this Swedish construction company. They were doing a high-rise. And it's about quitting time in the afternoon, and the boss comes around, and he looks up at the guys up on the 3rd floor, and he cups his hand and says, "Hey, you guys finished?" Came the answer, "No, we're Swedish." So, there we go, you know. We're not left out in the dark when it comes to a little silly humor here. Yeah. All right. Any more jokes anywhere?
Well, I heard one that was kind of amusing to me. There was a doctor that was in his psychiatrist's office. He was sitting there on the bench, and the psychiatrist says, "You know, sir, I think that you really are a pathological liar." And the lawyer says, "Oh, baloney, I want a second opinion." He says, "Well, you're ugly, too."
Well, we could come up with some legal jokes here, you know, but some of them would be actually illegal. All right, now I'm going to quote something here. Since the biggest crimes in the world are committed in the courtrooms by lawyers and lawyer judges against the people in unconstitutional courts, we the people must protect ourselves where we need the most protection in the courtrooms from the lawyers and the lawyer judges. So you see, what has become legal is not necessarily lawful.
Right.
And we're being taken for a heck of a ride in this country. Let me tell you that. And we want you to wake up there. You know, they have an advantage, these lawyers, that they keep the public in the dark because the public has learned to think that these people are the sole knowledge of what is judicial and what is right and what is wrong. they have become kings in their own right. They're kind of like King George in a sense, you know.
Well, at least that's what they think. Yeah.
That's what they think, yeah. And we are here to change that opinion. Get on with knowledge so we can do something here. You know, we need to rise up in America here intellectually and knowledgeably. And the biggest weapon lives in your head. Now I'm going to quote another thing here from Adam Smith in 1776, so you know that what we're saying here on this program is not something that came into being in the 20th century. It says here, civil government, so far as it is instituted for the security of property, is in reality instituted for the defense of the rich against the poor, or of those who have some property against those who have none at all. Adam Smith, 1776, in the book Wealth of Nations. So you see, all these things existed. Now, gentlemen, how have we avoided confrontation with these things after some 229 years now?
Oh, it's been going on a lot longer than that. You know, even back to biblical times, Jesus used to, you know, rail about the
There
lawyers.
you go, yeah. Well, I was thinking about America here, but you're absolutely right. This is very, very true here. You know, this is very true. Now, I want to get on with Edward here. I'm going to quote a couple of other things later on here. But you wrote this little booklet here, We the People versus the Legal System, a private citizen's plea for legal reform. There it is, right there. And we want to, you know, you go down to the law libraries. You do a lot of studies. You're a knowledgeable guy in the legal sense here, you know. And we should do our own. You know, Albert LeBrun over here, likewise. Some of these guys don't want to even do a debate with you on it because you supersede their knowledge.
Right.
You have taken up, he says, wait a minute. We're not going to let these guys in the law and the judicial courts come with their sledgehammers and whack us on the head. We're going to bring our own sledgehammers called knowledge, and we're going to use it. But first, I want Edward to go through this thing here, you know. Can you tell us more how you came into doing this booklet here, We the People versus the Legal System?
Sure. Well, I wrote that about 20 years ago, and I wrote it because I was observing and things that I've seen, you know, firsthand, and also what I had read in the newspapers and magazines about there being more and more injustices perpetrated in what it purports to be a justice system.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where it's seriously impacting the whole country.
Yeah.
You know, lawsuits running out of control for staggering sums of money far beyond the injuries involved.
Yeah.
Where judges and politicians are stampeding on the law and getting away with it, literally getting away with murder in some cases.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And the whole system, you know, really grinding down the average citizen mercilessly.
Yeah.
And I thought it was time to get 2 cents worth on the table there and see what could be done. Unfortunately, I must say that very little has changed in the meantime. It's still pretty much the same system that it was then, and I don't realistically expect that the system will change a great deal in the near future, but you know, at least if we get together as citizens and, you know, make our point, maybe someday somebody will listen, right?
Well, yeah, you know, let's take America back is what our old program used to be. Quote, what is what we do now? Because it's an appropriate title since we're talking about where's America going? Yeah. Which direction are we taking here? How did you get to write this booklet? What prompted you? I want to know that.
I simply became more and more angry about the gross injustices of the system, the inefficiencies.
How did you see that at first? How did you... Once upon a time, you thought the system worked good. And then, little by little, something in your mind began to, why is that? You know, something, and it kept filling up the bucket, so to speak.
Well, I never thought it really worked well.
You never did?
No.
Okay, so you had a consensus of that the judicial system wasn't what it what we see it to be. You know, that, speedy trial and injustice and all,
That's right.
you know.
But, you know, the newspapers, for example, would have accounts of various criminal actions that have taken place. And in some cases, the people were apparently quite guilty, but were, being set free because of some legal technicality.
Yeah.
In other cases, people who were quite obviously guilty of what was going on were not prosecuted, not indicted at all.
Yeah.
So getting away from, with major criminal things. For example, the current rash of corporate mismanagement and embezzlement and on and on. This was
And the Wall
happening.
Street stuff and all
That's
that
right.
thing,
Yeah, and eventually it became apparent that the rich and the powerful were generally getting away with things, whereas the little guy was getting, screwed, really, what can I say? And so eventually it got to the point where I just says, hey, enough is enough. It's time to start getting something on paper here and get it out there and, see what kind of ideas we can have, what kind of support we can generate.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you see I have a long sleeve shirt on, and the idea of that is that we're here, we're going to roll up our sleeves and go to work with this guys here. We're ready to go. And that's what the real America is all about. Roll up your sleeves and get the job done.
Yep.
And we're here to illustrate to you that it's no good to sit there by your TV and watch the soap operas. Get your kids around the kitchen table and start discussing events of the day. There's plenty to go around. That's where education is, Set aside that time of day instead of watching the idiot box and get your kids together. They'll be very interested because there's a lot of fun in developing knowledge on things. Since we're giving you these cases here, try to learn from it. Tape the programs if you like. Ask your, if you know somebody to watch the program, see what they have. Maybe you know some lawyers or maybe you know some judges, who knows, and see what they think. Remember, we are not afraid of anything because we got more than sufficient knowledge to assuage properly the validity of our statement in front of any professional entity and or authority regarding the criteria inherent in this program. All right, so since we now have our sleeves rolled up, yours too, huh? Albert, I didn't see you do it, All right, we're going to turn the show over to Albert here, who is going to continue his quest for fair justice from the last two programs we did. And if you see or hear something, don't be afraid to cut in.
Right.
Okay?
I would like to start with the statute, if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
And we're going to start with the first thing, 5245A. Every one of you's got a book there?
Yeah.
5245A.
Okay. All right, Albert, you go. I've got it right here.
I would like Mr. Whitney read for me only the top part of this over here.
The first paragraph?
The first paragraph is right.
Okay. It's chapter 896.
Well, that was the before. Not today. It's changed to
Section
52-45A. Yeah.
Okay. Commencement of civil actions, contents and signature of process. Civil actions shall be commenced by legal process consisting of a writ of summons or attachment describing the parties, the court to which it is returnable, the return date, and the date and place for the filing of an appearance. The writ shall be accompanied by the plaintiff's complaint. The writ may also run into any judicial clerk, any district rather, and shall be signed by a commissioner of the Superior Court or a judge or clerk of the court to which it is returnable.
Yeah. When you are a pro se person like me, the clerk of the court has to sign it for me because I'm not a commissioner of the Superior Court, so I have to have the clerk of the court to sign it for me.
Usually it's a lawyer who's the commissioner of the Superior
Right,
Court.
the lawyer will sign it, yes. Now, that's how an action is commenced, right?
Right.
Now, if we go to the index, and it says over here, you don't have that with you.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, okay.
this is not a book. It
Yeah.
says over here, commencement of an action with 52-278CA. Let's go look at first at 52-278.
52-278, okay. I see you have done your job of
Yeah. Now-
you got?
You got 52-278?
Yeah, it must be on the
278A, you said?
Yeah, right,
Well,
52-278A.
Right.
A, okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it here.
That's D.
278A. No,
D.
that's D.
D.
Oh,
It's
sorry,
before,
one-
it's
Two
before
pages
that.
back. Page 341 in my copy.
No, it's not the same,
341?
it's not the same book.
Oh, this is not the same book.
Yeah, it's different years.
Oh, okay.
So we
Oh,
cannot
I
go.
see. Okay, so you have it in a different,
Right.
oh, okay, so you have it here on 327 in this case here, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, where's that?
Yeah, definitions, okay.
Yeah. Read this over here.
Okay, definitions. The following terms as used in sections 52-278A to 52-278G inclusive shall be the following meanings unless a different meaning is clearly indicated from the context. You want me to, that's it?
Yeah, commercial transaction, I don't want it.
Commercial transaction means,
Read this over here.
okay, the consumer transaction means a transaction in which a natural person obligates himself to pay for goods sold or leased, services rendered, or money loaned for personal, family, or household purposes.
So now, this is what a prejudgment remedy, attachment,
Yeah.
right? This is what it should be used
Yeah.
for. They don't say over here, they could use it for a tort
Yeah.
action. They don't say they could use it if you got an accident and
Yeah.
it's your fault and all that.
Yeah.
You cannot use it over here because they don't know whose fault it is there,
Yeah.
right? So you cannot use that for a
Yeah.
tort action, car accident. You
Right.
could use it only for what it doesn't say, it's not included. You understand?
Yeah.
And so if you read it again, right? Consumer transaction means a transaction, natural person obligate himself to pay for goods sold
Yeah.
or lease. Only for goods sold on lease. If you sell me something and I don't pay you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You got a bill,
yeah,
right? You could
yeah,
attach me, right?
yeah,
Service rendered, right? L'arrêt photo, the dog incident. L'arrêt photo did not rent me any service.
Right.
Money loan. Did he loan me any money? No. Personnel and family household purposes.
purposes, yeah.
That doesn't apply again. So they use the prejudgment remedy, attachment, for anything they could think of, even if they are not allowed to do it, because that's what it says right here, right? Now let's keep going with that. 52-278C. Mr. Whitney, you want to read this one?
Sure. Documents required, forms, scheduling of a hearing, service on defendant, notice and claim form, request for hearing by defendant. A, except as provided in sections 278E and F, any person desiring to secure a prejudgment remedy shall attach his proposed unsigned writ summons and complaint to the following documents. Then the application directed by the Superior Court to which the action is made returnable for the prejudgment remedy requested. An affidavit sworn to by the plaintiff or any competent affiant setting forth the statement of facts sufficient to show that there is probable cause that a judgment in the amount of the prejudgment remedy sought, or an amount greater than the amount of the prejudgment remedy sought, taking into account any known defenses, counterclaims, or set-offs, will be rendered in the matter in favor of the plaintiff. And,
Are you at 52-278C?
Yep.
C?
I'm just reading subparagraphs 1 and 2 of that.
Where are we going with this, Albert? You know. By the way, when you straightening this out, we're not lawyers under any form or substance. We do not practice law in any courts or anywhere else under any circumstances. We're just well-informed people who deal with reality and truth as truth and reality in reality really is.
Yeah.
And since lawyers have a vested interest in truth, or you should think so, we see that the judicial system, as we mentioned when we were talking to Edward a little earlier, that there is a great deal of problems in our judicial system in America, and Albert LeBrun has been subjected to this kind of judicial system. He's got an enormous amount of documentation, legal and otherwise. And we want to see, Albert, how this connects to your case.
Okay. Let's go. You see, the 52-278C tells you what you got to serve to the defendant, right? You got to serve a unsigned writ. The unsigned writ is the document that the judge is going to sign for him to attach your home with. Writ and order of attachment is the same thing, right? And you got to be served with a summons. You got to be served with a complaint. You got to be served with an application for the prejudgment. You got to be served with an affidavit, sworn affidavit. You got to be served with a form of order of hearing. And you got to be served a form of a summons at number 4 there. A form of a summons. That's the one summoning the sheriff to serve you. Directed to the proper officer, commanding him to serve upon the defendant at least 4 days prior to the date of hearing, pursuant to the law pertaining to the manner of service of process. And they repeat again, right? But again, they mention again a summons, a writ. They did not say unsigned over here, but it should have said unsigned writ, summons, complaint, affidavit, the whole thing. So there's 2 summons involved. The one for the sheriff does not commence an action. The other one do commence an action. But what they do, they serve you only the one who command the sheriff to serve, and they don't serve you the one that commence an action, right? And the one that they get you, the one that it's summon the sheriff to serve, they put all kind of stuff on it to make you believe that's the real thing to commence an action. You put a docket number on it. They put a headline. That thing doesn't show a headline. As a matter of fact, we do have that in the book right here again. They show this someone in the book, just the following page, and you will see. Yeah, that's the one right here. That's the one right here.
Yeah, okay.
That's a 52-278C. Yeah, 52-278C. They show the someone that they don't show a headline, they don't show a docket number, they don't show even a return date, and they don't show what is very important over here. This is completely corrupt fraud, forgery. They recognize at the bottom of the document. Lisa D. Jesus of Willimantic, Connecticut is recognized in a sum of $250 to prosecute. On a real someone to commence an action, this belongs in there. On this document, that doesn't belong in there. It's not in this book, it's not there, and that doesn't belong in there. So it's to get you to make believe that they commence an action against you and they don't. That doesn't commence anything at all.
What a terrible fraud this thing is then, huh?
Right.
Oh.
Now, if we go page by page, the next page that you got in those documents here is an appearance. An appearance for what? An appearance, there's no action commence over here.
appearance, yeah.
Right, there's no action commence. The next page is the application for the prejudgment remedy.
Yeah.
Over here, at the first paragraph, at the end of the first paragraph, it says pursuant to the attached writ, right? It should say pursuant to the attached unsigned writ, right? Because the writ at this time, the writ and order of attachment is the same thing. And it should be unsigned at this time because the judge has to sign it to attach your home. So why is not put unsigned there? I'll show you why. Because they never provide a place for the judge to sign it. You see that's the writ over here, unsigned writ right here, right? So the judge got to sign this document to attach you with. The judge never signed it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what led up to this kind of things that you're talking about here? You noticed that the documents were not signed by the proper authorities when you got them?
But no, I did not knew I was ignorant about the law. I did not knew that, I did not knew what a summon looked like, to tell you the truth. Right?
Yeah, okay.
I found out in 1996 that there was one document missing here. And without that document, they don't commence an action against you. They don't want to commence an action. Why they don't want to commence an action?
Yeah.
They don't have a case in the first place.
Yeah.
By not having a case, the idea is to get you to capitulate to their extortion scheme.
Yeah.
Now, if we go for the order you were there, Mr. Whitney, there, the disorder right here, right? Again, it says the proposed unsigned writ, which that's right.
Yeah.
It should be unsigned.
Yeah.
Someone complained, but the someone is not included. And the law say right here in this book, the law say that the clerk of the court, if everything is in proper form, if you serve, the lawyer bring 2 copies of this to the court. One copy, the court keeps. The other one, he give it back to the lawyer for the lawyer to serve you with a copy of it, right? And it says, the statute says that if, I lost now, that the clerk of the court look at all the document, and if everything is proper, it's marked right here, right? If everything is proper, then she sign it and give it back to the lawyer for the lawyer to get you served by the sheriff, right? That's why it's not proper in here, but the clerk of the court signed it just the same. It's all arranged between clerk of the court and judge. And if we keep going with those documents again, now, anybody, go to the complaint.
What page is 7?
Right there.
Yeah.
You want to read paragraph 7?
Yes. At that time and place, Plaintiff Stacy and Plaintiff Andrea had not tormented, teased, or abused the plaintiff's dog, nor had they committed trespass or any other tort.
Tell me, which dog it is, the plaintiff dog?
Well,
There's a plaintiff here and there's a defendant, right? Which
Yeah.
dog is the plaintiff dog here?
well,
The plaintiff is Stacy Flotto, Andrea Flotto, Larry Flotto.
yeah, they're the
but
plaintiff.
it's
You're
a
the
defendant's
defendant.
dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's not
So
tease.
that's a very keen observation, Albert, that you saw that the plaintiffs, had not tormented,
Their own dog.
yeah.
Their own dog. It's not torment,
Yeah.
right? It's not torment their own dog.
So in a sense that they had the dog and you didn't.
Right? Now, look at the first count, right on top there. Negligence as to plaintiff Stacy Flotto, right? If they want to accuse Albert Lebrun of being negligent, it should say negligence as to the defendant Albert Lebrun. To me, Stacy Flotto admit negligence of her part over here. Do you agree with me? Ed, do you agree with me, Edward, on this over here? First count, negligence as to plaintiff Stacy Floto. To me, if they wanted to accuse me of negligence, they should have said negligence as to the defendant Albert LeBrun.
Yeah.
I say that because during the trial, the judge took this out of there to help me out, right? If you're going to accuse somebody of negligence, you better have clean hand. Do you know what I mean by clean hand? Right? So, to me, the judge took this out of there, right? Because, and he told me that he was taking this out of there to help me. Right? Now, he took also the paragraph 12 of the complaint out of there completely, right? And the second.
And what they accomplished. So, Gordon Howard Folsom, what do you have to tell us about the United States Marine postage stamps?
Hi, my name is Gordon Folsom, a Marine veteran of World War II. The United States Post Offices has recently honored the United States Marine Corps with 4 Marine stamps that are titled Drum Roll Please, Stamp Design of Legendary Marines Revealed. These stamps will honor the United States Marine Corps for its 230th birthday. The stamps are in the post offices at present time and will be until November the 10th, 2006.
So, Gordon, you were telling us that before there was a United States of America, there was the U.S. Marines?
That is correct.
Okay. Tell us about it.
Before there even was a United States of America, there already was a strong force protecting a very young and vulnerable land, the Marines. As 13 young and unique colonies came together in a unified struggle for freedom, there were a few good men who answered a desperate call to arms. Following now famous skirmishes at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts, delegates to the Second Continental Congress assembled at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and on November the 10th, 1775, ordered the raising of 2 battalions of Marines to serve as a landing force for the growing colonial fleet. It was the first step in a long and courageous road of distinguished and heroic service by the Marine Corps that continues on even today in a very troubled and volatile world. Whether battling the fierce Barbary pirates along Africa's North Shore or marching alongside General Winfield Scott from Veracruz to Mexico City, Marines have always prevailed, securing freedom for those too long oppressed, no matter where they are. Always has and always will be the warrior ethic of the United States Marines. The 4 Marine heroes are Lieutenant General Lewis B. Puller, Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, Sergeant Major Daniel J. Daly, and Lieutenant General John A. Lejeune. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone was cited for holding 3,000 Japanese soldiers at bay for 72 hours during the Battle of Guadalcanal with only 15 men, 12 of whom died in the fight. He was sent home to promote the sale of war bonds. He requested to return to combat and again distinguished himself in the Battle of Iwo Jima, where he was killed. Sergeant Major Daniel Joseph Daly, who received the Medal of Honor twice for separate acts during combat in the Chinese Boxer Rebellion and in Haiti, protecting American lives during the uprising in 1915. General John A. Lejeune was the first Marine to command an Army division in World War I and later became the 13th Commandant of the Marine Corps. He is often referred to as the greatest of all Leathernecks. Camp Lejeune in North Carolina is named for him. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we are proud to fight our country's battles on the land as on the sea. First to fight for right and freedom and to keep our honor clean, we are proud to claim the title of the United States Marines. Our flags unfurled in every breeze from dawn to setting sun. We have fought in every clime and place where we could take a gun. In the snow of far-off northern lands and in sunny tropic scenes, you will find us always on the job, the United States Marines. If the Army or the Navy ever look on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by the United States Marines. Semper Fi.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon. How long were you in the Marine Corps?
A little over 6 years.
And when did you go in? What years were those?
I enlisted on June 11th, 1941.
And what'd you do the first year you were in the Marines?
The first year I was in the Marines, I was shipped up from Parris Island to Quantico, Virginia, up to the Philadelphia Navy Yard, over to Fort Mifflin, Pennsylvania, and I was there at Fort Mifflin until the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor, and then we were turned on high alert, and we were on 8 hours, 4 hours on, 8 hours off. And then we were transferred on our way to the West Coast, to California, to board a transport ship, to a place we didn't even know where we was going because everything was censored back then. They wouldn't tell you where you was going. And we ended up in American Samoa. We stayed at American Samoa for 9 months. Heavy training, night training, and day training and everything. Then we did some landings on British Samoa. We did some landing on some other islands. And then we left Samoa after 9 months and went to New Zealand. More rugged and tough training. And we were there about 5 or 6 weeks.
What year is this, 1942?
I don't remember, Glenn. I don't remember when it was. 1940. I just can't remember.
Okay.
You didn't tell me I was going to have give you this stuff. Okay?
Well, go ahead.
All right. From New Zealand, we got aboard ship, and we headed back out in the Pacific. We didn't know where we was going, and 15 days went by aboard ship, and we appeared off this island and from quite a distance, and we were informed it was the island of Guadalcanal, and we were going in there to relieve the Marines on duty, which were, I assume, were part of the 1st Marine Division, and we stayed there and we trained and we trained and we trained some more.
What was the name of your division?
Mine was well, we were establishing the 3rd Marine Division at that time. And
About how many men was that?
well, we were our full division is somewhere over 20,000 men.
20,000?
And we probably had a I guess we had pretty close to a full division at that time. And then we, next thing, we did a lot of training there at Guadalcanal, and the Japs came in at night. We're bombing, trying to get at us, and we finally got aboard ships again, and we were out to sea for quite a while, and we kept noticing that the ships were moving differently, and we were going in a sort of a different line, as we heard from some of the talk going aboard ship, straight line in the daytime and sort of like crooked lines at night. And as this went on, you see what was going on. We didn't want to, the big people in the Marine Corps didn't want to hit where all the Japanese soldiers were over on, I can't remember the side of the island. So we were heading for a Empress Augusta Bay. And when we went into Empress Augusta Bay, the Japs, of course, they knew by that time that we was on our way, that we was on our way up towards where the Peaver Forks is, or was, okay? So we moved up to the Peaver Forks and got into a tremendous firefight with the Japanese at the Forks. And then we had another battle. I forget the name of that place. It was on a hill. I can't remember now. And anyway, by that time, I had become very sick and high temperatures, and they sent me down to the sick bay, and I had malaria, and I had the filariasis, which is the starting of elephantiasis, which everything swells up in your body. So when I went down to the sick bay, the doctor says, I had to strip down, and he just took one look at me. I was all swollen up, neck was swollen, arms were swollen, testicles were swollen, everything was swollen up. We got 3,000 of us in our 3rd Division got this disease at American Samoa. So I was moved on back to Guadalcanal, and there was no cure for it. The doctors didn't know much about it, and there was no cure for it. So I moved back to Guadalcanal. I went up to New Caledonia at the hospital there, and I waited to quite a while for the ships to come in. And one of the ships, the USS America, I believe it was, picked me up and went aboard with a whole lot of other casualties, and we went to these different islands picking up Marines and sick people, and it was a big ship, the ship, but made into a troop ship. And then we headed back to the west coast of California, and I was taken to the Naval Hospital at Oak Knoll, California. And they gave me a choice of 3 places I could go. One was Brunswick, Maine, and the other one was Klamath Falls, Oregon, and the other one was Newport, Rhode Island. So my family was living in Springfield, Massachusetts at the time, so I chose to take the Newport, Rhode Island one so I could see my family. And of course that's where I met my wife and we got married. And
well, weren't you in Bougainville?
yeah, well, didn't I tell you that? That was that last island we went on, was Bougainville. That was Empress Augusta Bay at Bougainville. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We landed there, and and we moved in, and of course Bougainville. If anybody knows anything that's read about Bougainville, it is the worst jungle in the world. There's nothing tops it. And we got in there so far on the beach, and that night we was right in the swamp, right in this big swamp, right up to our waist high in water. And then of course we moved, that following day we moved out.
Did you ever get rid of the malaria and the elephantiasis?
Yep, the malaria, I had that for quite a while when I was at Newport. The elephantiasis, after a while, did disappear, but not fully, okay? It did disappear, but as time went by, it gradually left my body.
That's good.
Yeah. So then they shipped me back down. A bunch of us shipped us back down to Camp Lejeune, which it wasn't called Camp Lejeune back then, as I remember. It was called, oh no, that was the first part when I went down, the early part. It was called Tent City, New River, North Carolina. They got went back to Camp Lejeune, and I was in a hospital. They discovered a heart murmur on my heart, and they diddled around with that for a while, and then when the Japs, when we dropped the atom bomb, they called all of us in and asked us if we wanted to go home. We could go home, and according to how many points you had. Well, I had a lot of points, and points were, stuff would happen. So they asked me if I wanted to stay on the Marines or go home, and I said I think I'd like to go home and see my son and my wife.
Oh, okay.
So I went back home to Newport.
What year is that?
Oh, that was right after 1945. The war was over when they dropped that bomb, right?
Yes.
It was about, might have been 3 weeks, 4 weeks after that.
Okay.
So they could phase me out. I went back with a friend of mine, another Gordon Roberts, who lived in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Did you know that the Japanese had an atomic bomb?
Did I know they had an atomic bomb?
Yeah, most people don't. They did.
They did?
They did have one.
I never heard that one.
Yes, and when the war was over in Europe, the U-boat was taking the uranium to the Japanese. And the war was over in Europe, and so the U-boat was taken to Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Huh.
And it never got to the Japanese, and they never got a chance to use their atom bomb, but they had one.
Wow. I never knew that one.
Yes, it was kept secret, of course.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, see, everything, there's a lot of secrecy there. You was noticing my letters I was sending back, wasn't you, to Mother?
Yes.
Did you ever get a chance to read them?
I think so, yes.
Did you see how they was, certain things were scratched out?
Yeah.
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 You see, we don't have that today.
No.
See? And I noticed that when I was home, girl, and mother asked me about it, and I couldn't, what could I do? I couldn't tell her nothing. They scratched out things.
Yeah. Right.
And when I went over the West Coast, I had one address, and I stayed with that all the time I was in the Pacific, was that one address, and they never addressed it like to Bougainville or American Samoa or anything like that.
Of course not.
See? It was that one address, and that's all there was to it.
Yeah.
And if you said anything in there they didn't want you to see, would just ink right out.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's not... Not...
Remind us of our need for a Savior. We'd like the second candle to remind us of the promises of God's Word. Come, Lord Jesus, and speak your word to us. Come, Lord, and speak to your people. Your word is light to us, and your promises are true. Prepare our hearts and our world to hear your voice and to see your glory. Amen.
just a moment of silent prayer as we continue.
How can I be thankful that this baby is going to save me? You need to think about that. It's in your actions and your words. Be thankful that that baby is coming. And give that thanks and that love that I know is in all of your hearts to someone else. Okay? Dear Lord, we thank you for these gifts that you have been given. We thank you that this table that is in our presence will be supported by what is given here, so that your word may always be heard, so that salvation be given in the remembrance of everlasting life. In Jesus' name.